This channel is not just about stories. It's about hidden codes, codes that lie behind the reality you live in. And perhaps, without realizing it, you've been trying to decipher them for years. Here, each case is a key, a clue, a mirror of what you may also be experiencing. Today, what you will hear seems impossible. But when you understand the universal laws, the impossible becomes just misunderstood. Do you feel like you run and run, but nothing happens? Have you ever thought that maybe what you want will only appear when you stop looking? She spent years trying to force the universe to listen, until one day, he did something strange. Nothing. And that was exactly when everything started to change. Her name was Megan Collins. 35 years. Single. Holistic therapist in her spare time, but stuck with an administrative job that drained her energy day after day. Megan had big dreams, a sensitive soul, and a restless mind. Since he was 20, he has immersed himself in the world of universal laws, spirituality, mantras, and astral maps. I wrote everything down. I planned everything. I tried to manifest everything. But in practice, it seemed like the universe was always too busy for her. Even surrounded by people, Megan felt alone. She was the one who always advised others. But at night, in the dark room, she was invaded by a pain that she couldn't explain. I felt like I was almost there. Always almost. Almost in a good relationship. Almost living off what he loves. Almost happy. And that almost hurt more than failure. Because it made it feel like life was mocking her, letting her touch her dreams with her fingertips, only to then take them out of sight. She tried to convince herself that she was on the right path. But inside, a voice whispered, "You're not enough. You don't deserve it." Until one freezing November night, after another bout of insomnia and unanswered questions, Megan stopped. Literally. Stopped trying. Stopped asking. Stopped forcing. And it was in that silence, in that abandonment of the fight, that something began to move. The messages arrived. The opportunities came. And the coincidences, too strange to ignore, began to line up like pieces of a cosmic puzzle. But none of this would have happened if she had kept trying to manifest it the right way. Do you also feel like you've tried everything and nothing has changed? That maybe the problem isn't what you want, but as are you searching? Then write in the comments, "I feel like Megan," if this story is already resonating with you. Watch this video until the end, because what happened to her could be happening to you right now, in silence. Leave your like, subscribe, and activate the bell. What comes next could become your key. Megan had no idea that that ordinary, gray, silent day would become the beginning of what she would later describe as the invisible turning point. She did not have a mystical revelation, nor did she hear a divine voice. She just got tired. A tiredness that wasn't physical, it was of the soul. It was as if his body had screamed, "He arrives." And she obeyed. That morning, she looked at the vision board that had been on the wall for almost 2 years. The same clippings, the same motivational phrases written in gold pen. None of that manifested itself. Not in the way she expected. Megan didn't feel anger. She felt a quiet emptiness. As if, for the first time, she had the courage to admit that she was trying to control the uncontrollable. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and said something in a low voice, but full of total dedication. "If it's going to happen, let it happen. But I'm not going to chase it anymore." In the following days, something curious happened. The anxiety that normally accompanied her like a silent shadow was disappearing. Not all at once, but as if it were dissolved in doses. The obsessive thinking about what to do, how to attract, what ritual to repeat, simply lost strength. And in this empty space where there had previously been effort and self-control, a strange calm began to emerge. And it is always there, where the internal silence begins, that the universe speaks the loudest. That same week, an email landed in her inbox. An old, forgotten invitation. A remote work opportunity in an area she has always been interested in, but never felt good enough to try. For the first time, she responded without thinking. He just followed his intuition. 2 days later, he received the proposal with a value above what he expected. And for the first time, he felt that something was flowing. Not because she forced, but because finally, there was room to come. On Saturday, he accidentally met a college friend he hadn't seen in almost 10 years. It was supposed to be just a coffee, but the conversation lasted hours. The friend, now an energy therapist, looked into Megan's eyes and said something that chilled her spine. You were trying to be the universe, Megan, but the universe just needs you to trust. That hit home. She had never told anyone how responsible she felt for controlling everything, for understanding every sign, for deciphering what to do at every moment. It was as if that sentence was the silent confirmation of something the universe had been trying to say for a long time. And then, one more thing. One morning, while reading old texts from her diary, Megan came across a sentence she had written months before, almost like an outburst. I just wanted to stop running. I just wanted life to come to me. She read it as if someone else had written it. But at that moment, he realized that was exactly what was happening. And it didn't stop there, because what came after was even stranger. And you? Have you ever felt like you were doing everything right, but still nothing was going on? As if you had memorized all the sentences, performed all the rituals, read all the books, but deep down, you were still stuck in the same place. Megan spent years in this exact state, running after answers, trying to decipher what was wrong with your vibration, with your thoughts, with your worth. But he never stopped to ask himself, what if the problem is precisely this desperate search to control everything? Maybe you are like this now too, trying to attract something that seems to slip through your fingers. The more you want, the more distant it seems. And worse, you start to feel guilty about it, as if it were your fault for not vibrating properly, for not believing enough. And this silent guilt turns into self-judgment. You look in the mirror and, even without saying it out loud, your field vibrates. I'm not good enough yet. And the universe, obedient as always, returns exactly that frequency. It turns out that there is a detail that no one talks about. When you vibrate lack, even disguised as positivity, the universe doesn't understand what you want. He understands what you are in that moment. If your energy says, I need this to be happy, the answer that comes back is then you are still incomplete. Megan didn't understand this until she stopped searching, until I felt, for the first time, that I could simply be, breathe, trust. And if this is your case, what if the universe is not silent, but just waiting for you to be silent inside? Because as you run, push, insist, what you are saying energetically is, I don't have it yet. And all this frequency of lack, even packaged in beautiful phrases and colorful dream pictures, is interpreted exactly like that, as absence. Sometimes the greatest act of creation is letting go. Not the abandonment of dreams, but the abandonment of urgency. And no one teaches you that. Because we live in a world where we have been convinced that we need to do, control, measure, achieve. But what Megan's story begins to reveal is something much more subtle and much more powerful. She didn't give up on what she wanted. She just stopped acting like she was indebted to life. He stopped negotiating with the universe. And in that space of silent trust, everything began to respond. So tell me, have you felt this too? This vibrational fatigue, that point where it seems that no matter how much you fight, no matter how much you try, everything just stops? Maybe it's because your energy is still saying, I don't have it yet. And maybe what you need now is not just one more technique, but from a space within you where everything can finally arrive. Because what happened to Megan after that was even stranger and even more revealing. This is where the law of rhythm comes in. And perhaps this is one of the laws most ignored by those trying to manifest, because it teaches something that the ego hates to hear. Everything has a right time to flourish. The soul knows this, but the conditioned mind, programmed for haste, for immediate results, tries to run against the flow. That's exactly what Megan did for years. And maybe what you're doing too, without even realizing it. Because we are constantly being taught to force the moment, to push reality, to shout at the universe through positive thoughts that are not always sincere. But the universe does not respond to what is said. It responds to vibration. And that's where the law of vibration comes in. Everything vibrates. Everything has a frequency, including you, including your desires. But, contrary to what one thinks, it is not the desire that manifests. It is the vibrational state behind it. If your desire comes from a feeling of scarcity, of emptiness, of urgency, then that is what you emit. And that's exactly what comes back. Megan didn't understand why her life wasn't flowing. She thought she was doing everything right. But the universe does not respond to appearance. It responds to the essence. On the outside, she said, I want to prosper. But inside, his vibration was still one of fear, of doubt, of excessive effort. And the universe, obediently, just reflected, you still don't trust. You still don't believe. You're not ready yet. Not for punishment, but for vibrational precision. And when it stopped, something fundamental happened. The natural rhythm of things returned to space. The tide stopped being pushed. The river stopped being contained. Life began to breathe with her. Because the law of rhythm also says that everything has cycles. And that, between one cycle and another, there is a pause. And it is during this pause that many people despair and sabotage themselves. Because they confuse pause with failure, silence with abandon. But the silence is just the moment when the seed is germinating underground. Invisible, but live. The law of mentalism closes this puzzle. Because, in the end, everything starts in the mind. But not in the mind that demands, that forces. And yes, in the mind that feels, that aligns, that calms down. The mind that does not create out of desperation, but out of presence. Because what you vibrate in silence has more strength than 1,000 shouted affirmations. That's what Megan lived. And perhaps, at this very moment, you are being invited to live too. Because reality doesn't scream at those who make noise. She whispers to whoever hears. And when Megan stopped talking so much, thinking so much, controlling so much, that's when everything started to respond. First in a subtle way, then in a way that not even she could explain rationally. But the biggest turning point was yet to come. Because when the universe realizes that you finally understand, it makes a point of showing you what it has been holding in all along. Megan thought she had given up, that he was surrendering, that, by stopping trying to manifest, she was being passive, giving up control of her own life. But what she didn't know, and what almost no one knows, is that there is a huge difference between giving up and true surrender. Giving up is born out of frustration, the surrender of understanding. And that's what changed everything. The moment Megan stopped forcing, she stopped emitting scarcity. And, without realizing it, something began to vibrate that I had never truly felt before: silent confidence. She started to notice the little signs. Not the ones you've been desperately hunting, but the ones that only appear when you're there. An invitation that arrives without warning. A path that opens up when you no longer expect it. And above all, a peace that no longer depended on the result. The anxiety that had been tightening my chest for years now gave way to a feeling of welcome. As if the universe is saying, now yes. Now you are aligned. Now I can deliver. And that's exactly what started to happen. Not in dramatic explosions, but in millimetric fits. The right conversations, the right people, opportunities that previously seemed locked are beginning to open up one by one. And Megan, without chasing anything, just allowed herself to go with the flow. And the more it flowed, the more the flow intensified. It was as if life had been waiting for this moment of surrender so that it could truly show itself. Because what looked like surrender was alignment. What seemed empty was vibrational space being created. What felt like loss was just the old falling apart to make way for the new. And all of this was only possible because Megan stopped running away from herself. She stopped trying to be someone she wasn't already. He stopped emitting a vibration of, I want to change, and finally began to vibrate, I already am. And this is one of the biggest keys that almost no one understands. It doesn't manifest what you want. What you are manifests. And Megan, at that moment, was being exactly what she wanted to live. Peace, confidence, presence. That's when the universe responded. Not because she asked louder, but because she finally became what I only wanted before. The plot twist didn't come from outside. It came from within. And it's always like that. The universe does not ignore requests. It just waits for the exact frequency, the right vibrational code, the time when the request is no longer a scream, but a reflex. And in that instant, Megan understood. She was never being passive. It was being magnetic. Stopping was not the end. It was the portal. Because what seemed like the end of the search was, in fact, the beginning of the purest manifestation. If at any point in this story you felt like you were listening to your own life being narrated, comment below on the word alignment. This is how the universe understands that you are ready for change. And if this story touched something inside you, leave a like now and subscribe to the channel. This is the type of content that can change the way you see everything. And stay tuned, because in the next video, you will hear the case of a man who kept saying he was unlucky. But when he changed a single belief, fate turned upside down. The name of this is vibrational reprogramming, and it could be what's needed for your turnaround to begin.